what is it like right now as guys have been here, are coming in, but they're also probably a little ahead of where they would normally be this time?
Yeah, it helps when you have 85-degree weather, first week in February, which has been amazing down here. But first couple of days of camp have been been really good. I think the work guys put in, the things we asked them to do this off season, they all did a fantastic job of doing it. And just kind of moving that timeline up a little bit is kind of the way we just like shifting that calendar, and that's the way guys approach the off season. So we're seeing good early signs of that. We're gonna have live BPs, in 2 days, which is, February 12th. Live BPs is early for us, but again, it's just a timeline we have to work with right now.
What are your early impressions of Shota, as we know he will be pitching in Japan one of those games, and the anticipation of that?
I mean, I think for a guy who trained all off season so far away from us, and the time difference, and I would text him at night and I'd wake up in the morning at 6 and he'd have responded, he would send videos and things. So he did a great job of communicating this off season, sending video about what he was doing, how he's feeling. I think there's a huge sense of pride for him to be able to get the opportunity to go pitch in Japan. And I asked him about his family and his brothers and sisters and like who would be there, and he was just talking about all the people that'll be there to watch him. So I think it's a really special moment. Obviously, we have a lot of boxes we need to check here and do what's important for him over the course of the season, but that opportunity for him is going to be pretty special.
Talks about his season. He cited his WAR. He said he was looking at his WAR compared to other guys, and maybe there are ways he can get that particular number up through field performances. It seems like he's the type of pitcher where maybe WAR doesn't capture some of his skill set. But what do you think is just kind of where he's already trying to look for ways to improve on what he did last year, but also maybe that number doesn't fully appreciate what he does?
Yeah, I think he's very he's a student of the game, right? So that's one thing we've always known about him. He's very intelligent. He's always trying to find ways to get better, and not even in the traditional sense, right? He wants to get better at controlling the running game. He wants to be able to pick more guys off. He wants to be able to limit base runners taking extra bases. Like all those little things that don't really show up in WAR equate to wins for the team. And I think he's continuing to find ways to improve, to get better. But what's really encouraging was Shota coming in after everything we went through in spring training to kind of like onboard him. He came in like, I'm going to get my strengths dialed in. I'm going to do what I know makes me successful, and then we're going to build off that. And that's so refreshing to have a guy who's had success and also wants to continue to get better, but knows what his foundation is and what's going to make him successful.
With Assad, was that instant that he felt something while he was throwing? Were you there? I mean, how did that all come down?
So no, actually, with Javi, he had thrown a bullpen and felt good, did a workout afterwards, and it was just something that kind of just came up after. It wasn't anything like an acute throw injury type of thing. It was more of just something that kind of came up after the fact. So for me, like when that happens, I know we still have to kind of find out like what exactly we're dealing with, but when that happens and it happens in that fashion, it gives me a little bit more room for optimism, just because it wasn't that like one throw felt something kind of sensation. Now we just got to kind of figure out what we're dealing with and like put him on a good plan. Again, knowing that we need him for the long haul and not just be ready for like opening day or for that first series.
How does that not cause hesitation with other pitchers? Because you have they're all important, but it's someone who's uniquely part of the team involved, and does it just create some bad vibes to begin with?
No, I don't think so. I think everybody knows everybody's kind of working toward the same goal, and things are going to happen. Guys are going to go down, guys are going to get hurt. We also know that we can't take everybody to Japan anyway, so we know there's going to be guys that are going to be on the outside looking in for that trip, and we all are focused on the right things. We're all trying to do the right things, and injuries are going to happen, especially when they're kind of like freak type of injuries, not something that guy was overworking or underworking or under prepared. It was more just one of those things that we feel like, hopefully we'll get some answers quick and kind of come up with a plan. But I don't see any hesitation from anybody else because of it.
And then, just Craig was saying bird cell, you guys are trying to get the bottom of the back shoulder lat thing. Just what's the concern with that kind of injury and unknown with a younger pitcher like that?
Yeah, I think, had this happen, in my mind, had this happen like in camp, once camp's going, you could easily say like he's trying to do too much. He's around the big league team. He wants to have a good impression, and that didn't happen in this sense. I mean, he was around us, but it wasn't like in the environment of camp. So we've had good eyes on him here since January. So I think we have a good feel for that. The goal for guys like a guy like Brandon Birdsell, we know what he could do for the future of this organization, is to get him in camp and get him around players and just get to know what the workload looks like and what a routine looks like. And so even though he's going to be down for a little bit, it's not going to stop like what I think he's going to be able to accomplish being around the guys. And again, our ultimate goal with guys like him is to get him ready for a healthy season, not rushed for opening day. So we knew we were going to have time on the front end anyway. We just need to make sure that we're handling this right, get him in a good place, and then kind of build from there.
I saw the depth get exposed in April into May. Jed was already forthright on like we need to do a better job of piling up the depth going into the year. What do you think of the move, especially in the bullpen, to kind of stockpile experience NRI guys on just to kind of protect against things that do come?
Yeah, I think when I was looking at the roster in spring training this year compared to last year, I think that's the number one thing. It's not only just the number of bodies, but the amount of like major league caliber pitchers that have done it and been there. And going and getting not only what we did in the bullpen, but just like, Colin Ray, Matt Boyd, like those two guys who have a ton of experience pitching in the big leagues, a ton of starts under their belt. A lot of history there. Like that's why you go build that depth, and then you have the young guys with them, and then the relievers, Presley, Brazier, and like the guys we keep bringing in that have that experience. It's so valuable to have that depth early. There's going to be things that come up. There's going to be guys that are going to be slowly behind. And the one thing you don't want to do for a Japan trip is rush guys for those 2 games. And Council says it's not even just 2 games. It's really 1 appearance for most guys. So it's just a really fine line you have to play at this time of year when you have that game. So the depth is just extremely important.
Is that
Tommy, you mentioned Presley and Brazier. With experience comes a little bit of age too. Carter pointed out there's success stories at older ages, just like there's no problem. So last year maybe didn't work out with Hector. I'm wondering if you learned something from that experience. Is it usage at when they get a little bit older, to be ahead of it a little bit when they're older? What is there anything takeaways from that?
Yeah, I think age is a funny thing because it's a number in the equation. I want to say for me, because like you could have young guys that pitch shapes and velos and stuff look down, but because they're young, you give them the benefit of the doubt that it's going to change. On the flip side, you have older guys who the velo may be down, but the pitch shapes and everything look consistent. So I think it's part of the equation. I will say I was joking with Presley today. He threw a couple pitches. I was like, that looks like, he's like, do I look like I'm 36? And I go, no, I see the 19-year-old I saw in Fort Myers, a long time ago when we were together. So it's just fun. I think he's focused on the right things and like making sure that with age also comes experience. So you kind of know what you need to have at this time of year. And him and Brazier and guys and Thielbar, like guys like that, have a pretty good feel for what that is. And so I think it's checking those boxes and making sure that you have pitch shapes and delivery and all those cues in place, and then the velo hopefully will come with that too.
Jen mentioned yesterday too about like not every guy needs to be ready for Japan, but I'm guessing most guys want to go to Japan.
Yeah.
So have you had any of those like just general tough conversations to like look like some of you guys are just going to be on a different schedule? There's more than just those 2 games. Do you anticipate having those tough conversations? Just what is that like from your spot?
Yeah, I think that's something that we as a group are going to get ahead of really quick. There are going to be guys, we're going to tell really, really quickly that they're just not going to be going to Japan. And we're also like, it's something we're very aware of guys trying to do whatever they can to go on the trip. It's gonna be a great experience, and we want guys to actually look at that as a fun experience. It's gonna be a great team experience, team bonding experience, but also keep reiterating, it's 2 games. It's 2 games. It's not something we want to push to potentially sacrifice longer chunks of the season. So it's going to be a very important thing for us to balance this year. The communication with the players, with the training staff, with the strength staff is going to be like extremely important, and just something we're definitely going to get ahead of.
Hey, Tommy, could you take us back to when you first met Presley? Because he mentioned your history with Zoom with us. Like, did you ever play together, or was it just in camp together? What are your memories of him?
Yeah, I in 2008, I had Tommy John surgery and was rehabbing in Fort Myers, Florida. And we drafted this 19-year-old kid out of Texas high school. And so I got to spend the whole summer with him right after he got drafted. And then we spent the entire winter together, like doing, when he was doing short season and doing the winter programming, and I was rehabbing. And then because I was late, we were both in extended together. So he was like 19 turning 20, I was rehabbing, and then we both went to Lowell when the season opened that summer. I went on rehab and he went for his first full season. So we got to spend some time together, and it's just it's funny to, I mean, it's not funny, but it's like amazing to see him where he is in his career now and what he's been able to do, and just kind of look at this kid who is this 19-year-old high school kid. It just could throw and do some amazing things, and now to be this veteran pitcher who's had a ton of success. It's like really fun to see the career that he's had and the path he's had.
What does it do for your dynamic as player coach to have that?
I feel, and I can't speak obviously to the relationships he's had obviously with other coaches and stuff he's had in the past, but it just feels like natural. You know, it's almost like I've known Ryan for a while, and I've talked to him for a while. He's a very intense guy, and when he's on the mound, he's an ultimate competitor. But I feel a sense of just kind of like relaxation from him, which I think is a good thing for a guy who's come into he's been with basically two major league organizations, but only a handful of organizations his whole career, and to kind of feel like the comfort he has now, and he's going to bring a ton of experience. He's going to bring a ton of knowledge that I want a lot of our young pitchers, relievers to be able to experience. I tell Porter Hodge, I was like, you should be in his hip pocket like every day. I think I see a lot of similarities of a young Ryan Presley and a young Porter Hodge. That's going to be a fun dynamic for me to watch that kind of relationship like blossom as the year goes on.
The 19-year-old Ryan Presley, was he this competitive? Like, who was 19-year-old Presley to who you see now?
He was always uber competitor. He always wanted to beat you. He always wanted to, like, whether it was like a sprint or like we were doing something workout weight room. He's always had that competitiveness in him. But now, like, to see the ability to control it all, you know, and to harness it when he needs to, you know, instead of being like the wild stallion. That's the fun part I've been able to see, is the growth for sure.
We have some old stories you tell, okay, those are off limits, don't be telling teammates.
He's got way more stories about me, I'm sure, because I was rehabbing. I was trying to keep it light down there. I did some things I probably wouldn't want a lot of people to know, but I mean, you know, it's cool that we have that relationship to kind of fall back on. Yeah.
When you have Brown and Wicks coming off of injuries, what do you look to accelerate or step back, put the governor on when you see them here in spring training?
I think the big thing for those two guys, they've done an amazing job this offseason of staying to the regimented plan and controlling workload, effort, volume, velocity, all the things that we want to do, all these checkpoints. But when camp starts and the cameras come out and everybody's here, that you see the intensity tick up, and just continuing to monitor their effort and make sure they're not trying to do too much too soon. Both of them did a great job with that. There's going to be times that we're going to have to be like, hey, you're in a good place. There's nothing more you need to like show. Like, let's continue this like progression the way we have it laid out. And that's the big thing, just making sure we stay within what we're trying to accomplish every day and being very vocal about what that is.